You are now watching the True Mets Talk podcast, talking New York Mets baseball 24/7, 365 with your host, CP.
With the shallow right field, stumbling start for Stewart. Drilled to deep left field by Alvarez, and that's going to go in 4 straight games for the second time in his. He's homered in 4.
What's up, Mets fans? It's your boy CP, and welcome back to the latest episode of the True Mets Talk podcast. It's April 12th, 2024. We are 12 games into this brand new 2024 season. New season, new expectations for the New York Mets, and I'm going to be giving a little bit of a state of the New York Mets right now as of today. I've been on the road the last couple of weeks. The content has been few and far between, and I wanted to sit down and just make this very brief video talking about the last two series wins over the Cincinnati Reds and the Atlanta Braves. A little bit about some top performers, Brett Baty, Drew Smith, all that good stuff before we get into the amazing Mets pregame show tonight on the channel at 6:30 to kick off a fresh series against the Kansas City Royals. As always, before we get into the video, make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts and opinions down below about your confidence level in this team right now. Obviously, it was a very slow start to the season for the New York Mets. I went on that sort of fiery post-game stream after game one of the doubleheader against the Tigers. We did the roundtable after the nightcap of that doubleheader as well. And we were sort of wondering where this Mets team was going to go into this road trip and how they were going to rebound after a 1-5 start. Well, they rebounded quite well. Like I said, I've been on travel, so I've been doing some pregame shows, but really haven't been able to talk about the results of the game. So here is my brief synopsis. 6 games on your screen. Obviously, the Mets going 4-2 across both series. It was supposed to be a 7-game road trip. The postponement with one of the games being rescheduled for September, I believe late September, against the Atlanta Braves. But going into the Cincinnati series on the Roundtable podcast, we were all wondering, with that being a hitters friendly ballpark, how the Mets rotation was going to fare. And after a 1-5 start, you need something to click, and you need it to click soon. And no better pitcher other than Kodai Senga, who obviously we now know is going to be on the sidelines until at least late May, with the Mets transferring him to the 60-day IL. Jose Quintana, the vet, the guy who got the ball on opening day, struggled a little bit, held his own, but albeit struggled a little bit against the Milwaukee Brewers. How is he going to rebound in such a hitters-friendly ballpark? Well, he pitched 5 1/3 inning, only gave up 1 run, and set his team up perfectly to take the opening game of the series in Cincinnati, which the Mets did just that, winning 3-2. Now, the second game of the series have had very high hopes for Luis Severino all offseason long. Went out there against the Brewers, was less than impressive, 12 hits across however many innings he pitched that day. But nonetheless, I really do think he had a very solid start in Cincinnati. 5 innings pitched, gave up 1 earned run and 1 unearned run thanks to a less than stellar inning defensively from the New York Mets, a misplayed ball to begin the inning with Tyrone Taylor for a leadoff double for the Cincinnati Reds. Then Jeff McNeil basically extending the inning more so than it should have been with an error at second base that allowed a run to score as well. I really think Luis Severino bounced back quite well after such a disastrous inning, posting 7 Ks on the outing, and the Mets really just weren't able to grasp that second game, losing 6-9. But a lot of people were scapegoating Luis Severino in that ball game on my Twitter timeline, and I'm just like, hold on just a minute. He actually looked impressive in the face of adversity. He bounced back quite well. So I really like what I saw out of Luis Severino in that Cincinnati series, and I hope that he can build from that here tonight against the Kansas City Royals. So we'll see how he does there. And then Sean Manaea obviously took them out in Cincinnati and built off of an impressive debut and basically mowed the Cincinnati Reds down for a series win. The offense really was the key point in our roundtable podcast last go around. Like, when was the offense going to gel, especially those table setting guys? And they didn't really do that in the Cincinnati Reds series as much as I would have liked them to in a hitters-friendly ballpark. But nonetheless, when you transition over to this Braves series, they got it going. Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, DJ Stewart, even Starling Marte had a couple hits in that third game here when the Mets won 16-4. The offense clicked in Atlanta. And I know that there was a postponement. It's supposed to be a 4-game set, and I know it's sort of a cheap series win, but I'm going to take all the wins that I can get as a Mets fan, especially against the Braves, especially in Atlanta. It's an electric ballpark. Their fans are passionate. I don't like their fans. I don't like their team. I don't like their organization, but they are a passionate fan base. And honestly, it feels so good going into Atlanta and grabbing 2 of 3 from the Braves here very early on. This is a I guess table setting sort of series win in my eyes for the New York Mets. Obviously, Julio Teheran, former Atlanta Brave, recently acquired at that time. The New York Mets trotted him out there in game 1, wasn't even able to go 3 innings. Reed Garrett, Cole Sulser, and a lot of bullpen guys stepped up in a very big way to sort of lock down that win. And a lot of people forget the Mets, even before first pitch, designated Edwin Diaz, Adam Ottavino, and Brooks Raley unavailable for that game 1 in Atlanta, a decision that I truly didn't like, especially when it got to that 9th inning and we had to rely on Jorge Lopez to close out the game. As soon as Marcell Ozuna hit that ball in the 9th inning, I was for sure thinking we were heading to extra innings, which would have been really bad news given those bullpen arms I just named are unavailable. But the Mets were able to squeak out a win, 8-7. Was really hype on the pregame the next day, was really thinking that Adrian Hauser was going to build off of a previous impressive performance and sort of go out there in Atlanta with the pitching matchup in the Mets' favor and sort of perform and take that game 2. Because all I wanted going into Atlanta was a split. That's all I wanted. And I guess it helps that the series win with a postponement, but Adrian Hauser didn't do that. Only 5 innings pitched, 5 earned runs over those 5 innings. I guess the Mets are lucky and should be thankful that he was even able to go 5 with the way he started out there. Obviously, the late comeback was to no avail, and the Mets dropped that middle ball game, but was probably the best ball game of the season so far, hands down. 16-4 victory over the Atlanta Braves. I believe in the matinee it was a 12:20 start, I believe, in Atlanta, somewhere around there. I was on the road listening to it on the radio heading back home, and I was like just excited on the road. I could not contain my excitement, yelling in the car. DJ Stewart, home run. Brandon Nimmo, couple of hits. Starling Marte, couple of hits. It was a hit barrage. And it was just the icing on the cake for me to see former Met Luis Guillorme take the mound there late, and Tyrone Taylor, one of the newest Mets additions of this offseason, hit a home run against former Met Luis Guillorme and his brand new team over there, and what was a laugher at that point already. Certainly respect and appreciate Luis Guillorme's time as a New York Met. Was a fan of him. He was a true professional. Obviously, was very good friends with Tomas Nido and some other guys in the clubhouse. But it's just like funny how much of a full circle moment that truly was. So very impressive 2 series to build off of if you're the New York Mets going into this Kansas City series. And here are your updated standings, the NLE standings. I know it's too early to watch the standings here in early April, mid-April, but here are your updated NLE standings. The Braves are still at the top, 7-4, followed by the Phillies at 7-6. Mets and Nationals are tied with a 5-7 record, and the lowly Marlins. If you listened into my season preview, I had projected the Marlins to finish last, was not a fan of how their offseason played out, had no expectations for them to reproduce anything of what they did last season, and they're off to an abysmal start at 2-11. But I really wanted to get into Brett Baty on this slide because he deserves all the shout outs, all the props, all the credit in the world, based off of how the New York Mets fan base, and honestly myself included in that category, was viewing him going into this season. Now, I was a big proponent of Brett Baty is our starting third baseman to start 2024 off. That I have confidence After what I saw last season, not so much. But a lot of people were talking about Mark Vientos versus Brett Baty. A lot of people are talking about Mark Vientos working with Lindor, and where was Brett Baty all offseason? Well, the radio broadcast actually in that last game was giving a lot of necessary props to Francisco Lindor because honestly, I didn't even know this myself, but Brett Baty took 4 days in the offseason to go work out with Francisco Lindor in the offseason. And Brett Baty said that made all the difference in the world, not only just like the knowledge he was able to soak up, but just his overall mindset after that trip was a complete 180 going into the 2024 season. And now us fans in this organization are reaping the benefits of that left side of the infield. Absolutely electric with Francisco Lindor and Brett Baty. Not only offensively here, you see here on your screen, 311 average through 12 games, 6 RBIs and a 732 OPS, which I guess could be a little bit better in the OPS category, but beggars can't be choosers. Defensively, Brett Baty looks like a reinvigorated baseball player there at third base. They're paired up with Francisco Lindor. He is energetic. He's hype after making huge leaping grabs, charging baseballs to get the runner out at first base on balls that he would have been a lot more passive on last season. This is a completely new ball player. And obviously, it's only 12 games into the season. I got to give the props where props are due. We might be sitting here having a different discussion if these numbers are consistent through June and July about Brett Baty potentially salvaging the opportunity to be the New York Mets' future third baseman for many years to come. Obviously, after last season, going into this offseason, we were having heavy discussions around the third base position. Obviously, with the type of offseason the Mets had this offseason in terms of just the lack of spending, etc., the third base probably wasn't a priority for David Stearns to figure out. That might have been more towards next offseason. But right now, I think a lot of fans are starting to, I have to say starting to because it's still very early, come around to the fact that Brett Baty might be showing why he was a top prospect in this organization for so long and killed it at each level of the minor league system before coming up and struggling in the early goings of his career. Shout out to Brett Baty doing exactly what he needs to do. And I cannot make this video without giving Brett Baty props. So another guy that we need to give props, and I've been very hard on him, very tough on him, and deservingly so because he really hasn't figured it out, but certainly has in the early goings of the season, is Drew Smith. Drew Smith has been coming into every situation in the book, low leverage, high leverage, etc., and succeeding. This is a different version of Drew Smith that we're witnessing right now. Now, hopefully, with both of these guys, Baty and Smith, we can see the consistency through the summer into the later part of the season, and that remains to be seen. But wow, you talk about two guys that really needed to have bounce back seasons for the New York Mets on opposite ends of the baseball, right? Pitching and offense. Brett Baty and Drew Smith certainly are doing that. And I still think this Mets team is just like, this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the confidence and the top tier level of play we're going to see from this team. Still some other guys that we're waiting to fully come around. Francisco Lindor being one of them from the offensive side of the ball. Pete Alonso as well. Really, this is having an okay start to his season, but really not the locked-in Pete Alonso that we have all come to love and know. Once everybody starts to gel, once this team starts to gel and everybody starts performing at the top of their game, Jeff McNeil, another one that turned around the Braves series, but can we see that consistency after a horrible first couple series from Jeff McNeil? Like, as soon as we start to see all of these guys click on the same page at the same time, this is just the tip of the iceberg. These last two series right here, this is just the tip of the iceberg from what we're going to see from this team moving forward. I truly believe that. But these are your updated standings. These are your metrics for Brett Baty through 12 games. Shout out to Drew Smith as well. Shout out to Starling Marte notching 2 hits in the last game of that Brave series. And shout out to DJ Stewart. I know he's only batting a $105, I believe 105 on the season, but 2 really nice home runs against the Braves team. Now, I don't know what DJ Stewart, sorry, I said Drew. I don't know what DJ Stewart's future holds on this team. You got some veteran bats in G-Man Choi waiting in the wings if he doesn't really figure it out. Obviously, JD Martinez is going to be coming up. We'll see who goes back down when JD Martinez comes up. And that's a whole different topic of discussion with his back spasms or body soreness to begin with as well, which I won't be delving into here. But we'll see what DJ Stewart's tenure on this team looks like moving forward. But nonetheless, those home runs in this Braves series that we saw has got to feel good for DJ Stewart. Now, we got a fresh series coming up. Like I said, the Amazing Mets pregame show is live tonight at 6:30 all the way up until first pitch. It's the New York Mets versus the Kansas City Royals. This is going to be a very big test for the New York Mets. The Royals are 9-4 to start their season. They had a tremendous offseason through and through. Bobby Witt Jr. gets the massive contract, and they add a nice mix of veteran presence to go along with the young guys on that roster. This is your game one starting pitching probables. Luis Severino gets the ball for the New York Mets versus former Met Michael Wacha. Can't wait to see what the Mets do at home this series. Like I said, I like the interleague sort of play. No, not a lot of people are a fan of it. But early on in the season, I like to see new looks against different teams. So this is certainly going to be a test for the New York Mets. We'll be talking more about the sort of pitching matchups, the Mets lineup when it comes out later on the pregame show live stream. But this is your outlook here going into this series so far. So I appreciate you all watching. This is all I had. Like I said, I wanted to just make this sort of brief video talking about the last two series synopsis because I really haven't been able to make as much content as I would like. I've been talking about the pregame sort of matchups, really haven't been talking about the results of these games. So I wanted to hop on here and just talk briefly about the individual performances as well as the Mets' performance as a team overall. Listen, a really rocky start. I called the team out when they went 0-5 on that last post-game live stream I did after game one of the doubleheader, and they responded. They have responded in a major way. So I hope this team can keep building. I've seen that Steve Cohen has been more active on Twitter. He's been propping up Lindor. He's been propping up this Mets team, giving them props for increased performance. So let's see. The vibes are immaculate right now. You really can't be mad at what the Mets just did in Atlanta if you're a New York Mets fan. I'm certainly not. Even though they're 5-7 on the season, there's a lot of good things to build off of right now. It's a long season, 162 games. We're only through 12 games. Let's see what they got. Like I said, hit the comment section down below. What is your personal confidence level in this team moving forward? Like I said, I think it's just the tip of the iceberg for what's to come. I think that this team really hasn't tapped into anywhere close to their full potential. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. See you on the live stream today. Bring that energy. LFGM. It's been your boy CP. I'm out.
Thank you for watching the True Mets Talk podcast. Make sure you're tapping on that notifications button and checking out all the latest content on the channel. Thank you.